Yes, we are back and ready to go. Episode number 57 after a very long hiatus of the Shutdown Inning Podcast. Stephen Risotto here alongside Tylor Hall as always. Tyler, hi.
Hey, everybody. Steven, thanks for joining the program, man.
It's been so long. I
It's
missed you.
been it's been 9 months, dude. We
Oh,
skipped the whole season. That's why the Dodgers won.
that's possibly why. I missed you, Tyler. I'm looking at your face right now through the Zoom screen, and I'm seeing nothing but great memories of us and when you would drink the big water jug, and when I would say something about when I would mix up my words and say something I didn't know I was saying, and my faux pas, and we're back. We're back.
We're here. Here we are, man. Like
Yeah.
we never left.
Yeah, and I know you went and listened back to the last episode where I said the shutdown inning is not dead, and then it died. But
It was
we
just
did,
on life support,
yeah, we did some CPR, right?
right? But
Uh,
we have a lot to talk about. The Giants traded for Rafael Devers. No,
oh
I'm just
my
joking. We're not going to
God.
go back that far.
Yeah, we just
Just
have
do
a
a
whole
full season recap.
whole season, and then in May, and then in June.
The
Yes,
mosaic.
the mosaic. So much, yeah, the mosaic, but for us, it's not little pieces. It's just big chunks.
Yeah.
Yeah, entire timelines. Like 40 episodes were left on the table.
Right.
But yeah,
On our baseball reference page, it just says like for 2025 did not record personal
it
reasons.
did not record exactly. And the reason is just things got busy at work for myself, trying to figure out scheduling and all that. Um, but I feel good about being back. I've been kind of itching to get back into to doing podcasts, especially with you, Tyler.
Oh,
Um,
thanks, buddy. Yeah, I mean, I think in the past week, this is our fifth time that we agreed upon. And so, hey, we made it happen. I chased him down, everybody.
yeah, exactly. Listen to 95.7 The Game. You'll see some of my work there, or maybe not hear some of my work, but I'll have a hand in what you're hearing a lot of the time. Yeah, there is a lot to get to. And one of the things that is still that we're fresh off of is the World Series. You mentioned the Dodgers are back-to-back World Series champions. They're the first ones to go back-to-back since the 99 2000 Yankees. That was a three-peat because they won it in 98 as well. So some history being made, just a fun postseason. Do you have any like takeaways from this postseason? Just there's a lot going on. I feel like I was pretty in the mix and paying attention. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I was able to pay a lot of attention to this postseason. My little guy is really into baseball now. So if there was a game on and we were home, we had it on. So, some really fun long games. Everyone knows that I'm kind of a fan of the long games. People complain when they go too long, but I enjoyed them. I enjoyed those marathon games. We had that one in Seattle with Detroit. We had obviously a few of them in the World Series. Um, but overall, I think it was just some fun baseball to watch, and I'm glad the World Series was competitive. I heard a lot of people say that the ALCS was like the last competitive series we'd see all postseason, and that was not the case. We had probably an instant classic World Series, Steven.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best that I've seen, and it was insane, and all the storylines leading up. By the way, side note, the division series I think is my favorite round of the postseason, just because all day there's games going on, and I don't think I appreciated it until after I got out of school and I didn't have like class during the day, so where I'd miss a bunch of games. Now, where like I could kind of keep up a little bit more when I'm
Now that
driving
you're
around.
employed, you can watch baseball all day. I get it.
Yeah. Or I could at least, when I'm in the car, I could listen to it and stuff like that. But yeah, the World Series instant classic. Um, really good matchup too. And I know I want to get your thoughts on this because I've been wanting to ask you about like the whole David and Goliath thing. And part of me is like, if you're in the World Series, can you be considered a David still? Like that's my point of view. And I understand that a lot of teams look like David next to the Dodgers, who are without a doubt Goliath in this situation. But is that possible for there to be a World Series team that's like David?
I mean, I think a lot of it is just compared to who you're going against. And like you said, most teams are going to be a David next to an all-star team like the Dodgers. I mean, even I think most people looked at the 2014 Giants as a David going against the Tigers and their pitching staff, but I mean, obviously, if your team is in the playoffs, they're pretty solid. If they're making a run deep enough to get to the World Series, they're pretty solid. And, all it takes is your team getting hot at the right time, and any team can beat any team. So that's why, when people were saying, "Oh, ALCS, our last, entertaining series," I was like, "No, the Blue Jays can make this interesting," and they did.
Yeah, they did. And it is two different teams. I will say that. Like the Blue Jays, so much was talked about their contact, their ability to put the ball in play. The Dodgers, so much was talked about their just star power and their starting pitching was amazing too. Um, I don't even know where to start. I mean, I guess game three, did you stay up for every inning of that game?
I did, unfortunately. And I think where especially the David versus Goliath kind of reared its head in this series was those extra inning games, because as the games went deeper, the depth of the Dodgers was just ridiculous. Whereas, rightfully so, Schneider had to, in around the eighth or ninth in both extra inning games, he pulled Bichette for a pinch runner because they needed to get a run home. In the game three that he pulled Kirk, that was also the game Springer went down. So it was literally, I told my wife afterwards, I was like, it was basically like Guerrero and a bunch of dudes going against the Dodgers. And I mean that like respectfully, they're scrappy guys, they're professional athletes. But I mean, a lot of those games, and I think both of them ended up, the winning run was scored on a home run. So was game three a home run?
Yeah,
How did
game
the
Freddie
Dodgers?
Freeman walk-off
Yeah,
homer.
Freddie Freeman. Yeah. And so a lot of these extra inning games now, you end up relying on the long ball more. And so when most of your power bats, if you're the Blue Jays, are out of the game minus Guerrero, but almost any guy on the Dodgers is almost a home run threat except for Miguel Rojas, and then he a home run too. I think that's where the difference in the rosters really reared its head, was in those long extra inning games.
Yeah, and I kind of knew it would that game in particular would end on a homer. I figured someone would leave the ball out over the middle of the plate and just go yard. Everybody's trying to go home at that point. And that was just a really, really like, good game. And then, jumping ahead to game seven, um, I was at a brewery in Petaluma for a friend's birthday. And we watched it, on the big screens in the brewery, and it was a great atmosphere. And those are the type of games where there's certain situations where one thing could have happened, but a different thing happened. And Tyler, let me tell you, there were about three or four times where I thought that game was over.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even like obviously the Rojas home run was huge. I think even Roberts. I mean, everyone was shocked that happened. Even Dave Roberts. The Dave Roberts reaction to that home run. I don't know if you saw it. Was
Yeah.
classic. I think it became kind of meme worthy afterwards. IKF taking a baby lead off a third, no secondary lead. Um, does Will Smith get his cleat back down? I think they got that call right, but that was, could you imagine losing the World Series on a ball where your catcher's spike is like 2 inches off the plate? That
Yeah,
would have
on
been
a replay, on
insane
a
on a
replay review to
replay.
end the World Series, and that was one of the things that everybody talked about when replay was first implemented. Was like, what if a World Series game ends on this? And like we hear it with the robo umps, like what if a World Series is on a strike call, it ends. But like that player in particular, um, I mean, I thought the game was over the minute I saw Rojas slightly stumble. The minute I
Yeah.
saw him slightly stumble, I said this game's over. And then he just gave everything he had with the throw to the plate. And then I saw how far Kiner Falefa was from the plate. And I'm like, what is going on here?
He was even the guy, that they put in as a pinch runner for Bichette.
To
It's
score
like,
that run.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I've seen the replays of the third base coach drawing the line where he wants him to stay. He pretty much stayed there, but like no secondary. I understand you don't want to get picked off or, doubled off there, but Muncy wasn't, I mean, Muncy was two or three times farther away from the bag than IKF was. It's like at least match them a little bit. And if the ball's hit, just take a step back to make sure it's not caught first. at least then you're closer to the plate. And then, people said he shouldn't have slid, in that situation, your baseball instincts are going to take over and you're sliding through, especially where Smith was before the throw kind of drew him up the first baseline a little bit.
Yeah. I wouldn't be
A
able
lot
to.
of what ifs, man. It
Yeah.
kind of gave me flashbacks to 2002 and a bunch of what ifs that I'm sure Blue Jays fans are still reliving.
Yeah, no doubt. And for that play in particular, like I I don't know what the right answer is in terms of the sliding aspect, but if the goal is to not get doubled up off second or off third, and you have a little bit of PTSD from the night before where the game ended on a double play that was lined out to left, I could understand that. But like I also heard people reasoning that he didn't take a bigger lead because Will Smith could throw behind. Will Smith is not going to try to throw behind the runner
Yeah, you're not
in
going to
game seven of the
backpick a
World Series.
guy.
You are not backpicking a guy in that spot.
No.
So that just didn't make sense. And then Tyler, I also thought that it was over when Vlad Guerrero Jr. hit the ball to center field. And off the bat, I was like, okay, it doesn't look like he got a lot of this. And then he posed for a second, and then I was like, oh, and then it started carrying. I'm like, okay, that's in the ballpark. And then I realized that the pose was maybe just the pose of a guy who just missed one. So, yeah, he really is a
Yeah.
star. He's a
Yeah.
star.
His defense was on display all
Yeah,
postseason, but especially in that series. He hit a few balls where I was just like, because I remember I went to the game in San Francisco where he hit his first two home runs of his career.
that's right.
And I got there early the first night just so I could watch him take batting practice. And the ball just sounds different. There's some guys where it just sounds different, and he sounds different. And he remember one ball he hit off the left field wall where I don't even know if the ball ever got higher than the fence, but he hit basically a line drive off the left field wall. Yeah, he played his ass off in that series. It's
Yeah.
sad to see him go home without a ring.
Yeah, he put everything out there, and I didn't know he was a great defender the way he was. I think he actually has a Gold Glove, which I didn't even know about. And no, he's a really good. And the thing about him, and I know it's kind of cliche to say this guy's a hitter, but he's like a hitter first, and then he hits for power. Like he's a really good hitter, just has good command of the strike zone. He comes up big when it matters. Like I think the thing about what this World Series does for the Blue Jays is it gets a lot of those guys kind of more in the national picture where people know a Schneider now, a Davis Schneider. People know an Ernie Clement a lot better. People know obviously Savage. I mean, he's going to be on a lot of people's radar, and he's rookie eligible for next year. So you got to imagine he's the front runner for that award. And then one last play I wanted to touch on the ball to left field that Andy Paz, who was just inserted into the game, the hitter before, or maybe before Clement, I thought that ended the World Series too.
Yeah, it was crazy too when they put Pages in. I was like, oh, okay, I guess. They showed him running out there and they put, Andy Pages center field. I was like, all right. And hey, I guess Dave Roberts had his crystal ball. It would have been really interesting to see if he didn't make that switch. Does Kike Hernandez catch that ball? Because I don't think Edman gets over there, let alone jumps over Kike Hernandez to catch it. Um, Hernandez seemed to say afterwards that he still had a beat on it. He thought he was going to catch it, and then he has on the ground and thought they lost the World Series.
Yeah,
Um, you know, but he caught
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Do you think Hernandez catches that ball if Pages isn't there?
I don't think so. I mean, he got to the spot. I give him credit because off the bat, I didn't think it. I think Ernie Clement like golfed it, and off
Yeah.
the bat, I didn't think it was going as far as it did. And when it was in the air, and I saw Kike Hernandez going back, I thought about, and this is going to be like you're like, yo, you're too young for this. How the '91 World Series ended with the Twins.
Were
Um,
your parents even dating in 1991,
no, they were
Steven?
not. They were not. They were not even. They didn't even know each other. But that was a different situation. Obviously, I think there was a runner at third with less than two outs because the outfield was drawn in a little bit more. But I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
this is ending with the ball. It's going to one hop up against the wall. And then Hernandez, to his credit, he got to the spot and had his back turned. And if he did make the catch, it would have been a Willie Mays catch. Um,
Yeah.
but I guess we'll never know, which is the
Yeah.
story, as you mentioned, with a lot of these moments for the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun series to watch, minus the end result for me personally.
Yeah.
But it was really entertaining to watch. I really enjoyed watching postseason this year. Obviously the game seven of the World Series had like was it like 31 million viewers or something? It was the most watched baseball game in 30 some odd years.
Yep.
So just like this podcast, baseball is back, baby.
Exactly. And the thing that kept getting brought up during this, and we'll have more broader discussions about this as we get closer to it, but like I hate the fact that we're talking about a lockout after this next season. Like just baseball just seems, Tyler, like it's just in such a good place. We got, you know, people always play baseball in Little League. I've never been concerned with those numbers, but it seems like we have a good young base and international players all over the place and momentum. And I would just hate to see that kind of be wasted away with a lengthy
Yeah, baseball
labor
has a way of
situation.
not being able to get out of its own way sometimes, and it just seems like almost every one of these labor cycles, they have a year or two where it's a rough after, whether there's a work stoppage or not. It gets back, and then the CBA is up again after a year or two, and it's time to go through it all again. And we'll see how Major League Baseball handles it. We've talked about it before. I feel like they kind of they do a better job than any sport of villainizing their own product and villainizing their players. And so we'll see how it goes. I think the whole floor cap kind of salary situation will be a dominant discussion.
Do you
And we'll
think the
we'll
Dodgers
see.
are good for baseball? Because
Um,
that was another theme of this World Series.
Yeah, I mean, personally, and not just because they're the Dodgers, I don't think having a team that's built this way is good for baseball necessarily, but they're also not breaking any rules. I know we've talked about it last year when we recorded. That they're not breaking any rules. If anything, more teams should be trying it. I don't know if there's a lot of more nuance to deferred money than I think a lot of people realize, how it kind of leverages the future. So unless you have an ownership group that definitely isn't going anywhere, it's tougher to defer money because then you can't really sell your team if you're the Dodgers and you have like $1 billion in deferred payroll. Um, I like I said, they're not breaking any rules. I don't have any problem necessarily with what they're doing since it's within the rules, but I think they need to look at if they do kind of keep everything as is, how deferred money actually impacts a salary, or a luxury tax if they don't cap it. Because
Yeah.
having these guys, basically, I think Otani's cap hit or luxury tax hit was like 30 something million when he's on the annual value of his deal is 70 million. So find some way to level it out a little bit so teams can't exploit that loophole too much. Um, but any team could do what they're doing if they wanted to.
Yeah. No, I agree with the point on deferred money. I don't think they're bad with baseball just because like what you said, any team could do what they're doing. It's well within the rules. And here's the thing, I don't think it's out of the question. Okay, here's the thing. What they're doing is kind of unprecedented. I know everybody talks about what George Steinbrenner did with the Yankees all those years, and they never missed out on a free agent that they wanted. And we're seeing a little bit of it, like with hybrid mode here with the Mets. Their owner's kind of gone out of his way sometimes to rack up a big payroll. But this is a Dodger team that we expected to win, or at least I expected to win over 110 games. Like on paper, this was a good roster, and maybe that's like you know something that I should have expected. The health of their starting pitchers, um, but this team really wasn't that dominant as we had thought.
They
So
weren't as
if
dominant during the regular season, but they did exactly what they I thought they would do
exactly,
personally. It was
yeah,
we don't need to go out and win. Are we here to win? 110 games? Or are we here to win a World Series? Let's make sure we're as healthy as can be come playoff time. Um, Pretty much everyone was back for them by the time the playoffs started,
yeah,
right? I don't think they
yeah.
were really missing anybody, and they knew that even if they coasted to a wild card spot, they would have been fine.
Yeah, and just a little more effort from some of these teams' ownership groups, and you could have competed with that team this season. Maybe not the same amount of effort as the Dodgers, that because that is a big payroll that did good things during the regular season and did great things in the postseason. But I don't think it's that far out of the question for people to think that very high, sky high payrolls do not result in like an immediate or automatic World Series. So,
Yeah, I
um,
mean, one thing I will give them too, because like you mentioned, the Mets are spending just about as much money. I think if you like put the annual values of the deferred money on, the Dodgers would be like a bit higher, but the Mets aren't slacking at all. But one thing I'll give the Dodgers is they actually like have constructed a great roster. It's not just I'm going to spend money to spend money.
yeah,
You know, it's pretty evenly distributed between their offense and their rotation. I mean, it's pretty solid 26 man they have put together down there in
yeah.
LA.
And the last thing I guess I'll say on this is that they're getting older. Like I mean,
Yeah.
there once was a time where I didn't think there was an end in sight, and maybe there won't be an end in sight. Maybe they'll just keep doing their thing where they sign the next best guy and develop like it's nobody's business. But the core they have right now, I think Max Muncy's 36. They just picked up his option. Betts looked a lot slower in the first half and didn't have the best season overall. Um, Freddie Freeman wasn't the normal Freddie Freeman, still really good. So I mean, there's some question marks, I guess, but
Yeah.
yeah, I guess we'll see how long this core
Yeah, I
um
don't know if it'll continue with this core, but I think they're just going to keep buying.
just get
You
another
know, they're
core.
they're they're one of the favorites to sign Kyle Tucker, for example. Almost every time, every offseason
Get
lately,
out
it's
of
like
here with that.
they're
Yeah.
the top, one of the favorites to sign the top two or three free agents. They're in the conversation at least. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But
Yeah.
speaking of competing with the Dodgers, that's what the Giants are going to be trying to do in 2026 under some new leadership, Steven.
Yes, they have agreed to a contract a while ago, and he's been introduced. Uh, Tony Vitello as their new manager, who is the head baseball coach at Tennessee, and he is credited with rebuilding a program um, into kind of a powerhouse in the SEC, and just a guy who's known as an energizer, a leader, um, a top-notch recruiter in college baseball, probably the most accomplished college baseball coach in recent years, maybe the best one out there, from what people are saying, and he's making the jump.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the experience or lack thereof translates to big league ball. And I think, you know, Buster being the one to make the decision kind of gives me a little more confidence that it might work out. And if it does, he's going to look like a genius. So, but it'll be interesting to see. It was really funny. I mean, I know you saw it, but he said afterwards that he basically took a full-time position to be Drew Gilbert's babysitter
Yeah.
because Gilbert played for him. Obviously, the Giants a lot have an affinity for what he did at Tennessee. They traded for Drew Gilbert, who went to Tennessee. Blade Tidwell, I believe, who they got in the Tyler Rogers deal, went to Tennessee, and I think their first round pick this most recent year went to Tennessee as well. So obviously, the Giants and their office and ownership are very familiar with what Vitello was doing over in Tennessee.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Zach Manassian at the press conference said that he'd been on major league teams' radars for a while now, and it is a big jump. And I like the hire because I like I trust that he's gonna have people around him. And I do think that, and I've been saying this, that if I were to trust anybody in a managerial um, hiring and interview process, it would be Buster. I think I trust Buster's intuition. I trust his judgment on people. Um, so I think it's still early in his tenure to trust his judgment completely on like players and stuff because that's kind of a crapshoot. But on people, I feel like he's got a good grasp of like who would put players in the best situation to be successful because he's been around them for his whole career. Um, my question is because he's going to be fine with the young guys. The young guys not worried about. I think they're going to enjoy playing for him. But for this to work, the veteran guys need to buy in, and that's Willie Adames, that's Rafael Devers, that's Matt Chapman, the guys, that's Logan Webb, guys that are leaders of this team. Because if you put Rafael Devers and Chapman, and this is day one of spring training, and you're having them do college baseball drills. Like, hey, let's do some wind sprints as a team. It's not going to work. So I trust that Vitello's not going to do that, and things are going to change. But that's one area of concern that I have.
Yeah, I feel like Buster probably talked to some of those guys before making this decision, and I've seen some comments from Webb after he was hired that he likes the move. Chapman was probably the unofficial babysitter of Drew Gilbert before Vitello took the job. He seemed to they kind of took to each other a bit. So yeah, I mean, obviously you need that veteran buy-in, especially if you want to be successful. So it will be interesting to see. It's always easy for everyone right now to say, "Oh yeah, it's going to be great." I think he's going to do a great job. Some of those veterans, but when they are asked to like run those wind sprints, how does it go?
Yeah, exactly. But he's going to be good with the media. I'm excited. I feel like the last few years have, um, I'll just say it. I mean, they have not been as fun. I think Gabe Kapler was fun from a media perspective and his pregame meetings
He was like
where
awkward fun though.
it was awkward fun, but it was also like I feel like I learned something. Whereas with Bob Melvin, it was just kind of going through the motions and again getting the information that all the beat writers need. And this guy's, a few weeks from coming back, this guy's hitting well against lefties, all that stuff. I think the questions went a little bit deeper with Gabe, whereas Melvin's just kind of your prototypical cliche baseball guy. I
Hmm.
I I think Vitello is going to be more of the rah type of energy, um, more things that you'll learn from him, I guess. Who knows how long that's going to translate into a 162 game season? I don't know yet. Here's one thing that I want to hear from him. And again, maybe it was a situation where he hasn't looked too far into the team, but I've heard so much about him and all of that. I want to hear more philosophy, some more baseball stuff, right? I want to hear his thoughts on the roster. Like, how are you going to put Casey Schmidt in a position to succeed? Maybe he hasn't done all that. It's been a busy few weeks for him. But,
I
like,
mean, they might not also want him to talk about that yet in the public to let them know where their minds are at with some of the roster because we're coming into an off season, Stephen,
that's
where
true. But I have not heard any indication that he knows the team, you know?
I mean, I would be shocked if he doesn't
He
know.
probably does. But, like, during the press conference, it's like, what is your philosophy on this and this? And it's like, well, my philosophy is relationships. Like we know that, and that's going to be a big part of your strength, and that was a big part of your strength at Tennessee. But on the field stuff, I just felt like it was missing just a little bit. Like, I mean, I heard some comments that he made actually on the 95.7 The Game airwaves. He talked about Bryce Eldridge, and I think he's going to be great for Eldridge. Eldridge didn't go to college. So this is a cool kind of situation for Eldridge to grow as a player under a guy who's very pro development like Vitello is, but maybe he just hasn't gone over the roster and like, he used the term we a lot more while talking about Tennessee than with the Giants. I don't think that's a big deal at all. I'm just making
Yeah.
but I would want to hear more in the future about the team, the Giants roster and philosophy on the field. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think we'll get more of that once the team is actually kind of set, which does kind of lead us into our next talking point, Steven, is what do you think this offseason holds for the Giants? Obviously, some starting pitching's probably on the wish list. Probably an outfielder. You mentioned Casey Schmidt. Do they try to use him as a super utility guy, or do they plug him in at second base and see how he does?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the Tyler Fitzgerald thing from last year, where Fitzgerald had a really good year, was ranked on that one MLB Network list, and just wasn't able to be a proficient enough offensive player to make that work. And I just don't know what second baseman you could get, but I agree with you. Pitching. It's not enough right now. You lose Verlander. You have some spots in the rotation. Probably two guys you'll need. I don't even know who. I would take a flyer on everybody, to be honest with you. The Imanagas, the Dylan Ceases, the um, you
What do
know,
you think about Scherzer? Him and Vitello or are buddies. I've seen his name linked to the Giants as recently as this morning in a story.
I almost think I would rather have Verlander back, but I know it's difficult for Verlander, an older guy who lives in Florida, had a baby recently. Scherzer also has kids, so I guess that's maybe not the best point. But yeah, I mean, why not? It would be a good storyline, am I right?
The Giants just sign a different future Hall of Famer every year to plug the holes in the rotation.
Yeah, a different
You know,
40-year-old. And you know what 40-year-old they should sign, Tyler?
me.
Yes. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I hope those guys keep it kicking for a while because they're the two of the. I think Morton's retiring, so they're the two players left that are older than me in Major League Baseball. So
That's right.
we'll.
Are you
But
also on board
yeah,
with pitching?
as far as what they need,
Yeah, what do you think they need?
yeah, I mean, I think they definitely need at least two starters. I've seen them. Like the MLB trade rumors did their predictions, and a couple of guys had them going after Valdez from Houston. um, Ranger Suarez from Philly. So, like you said, I wouldn't be, they're probably going to kick the tires on all of them. It'll be interesting to see Buster Slosky. A lot of these guys do have the qualifying offer slapped on them, so that'll cost them a draft pick or two, depending on how many of those guys they sign. So yeah, we'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, I think they're definitely going to be high on those guys on the pitching market. I think they got to figure out something in the outfield because as much as, Ramos and Lee can be fun to watch at times, I'm not sure if they're anchors in an outfield.
Yeah, I mean, Jung-Hoo Lee's brought a lot to the table when it comes to, his off the field stuff and marketing him, and he's been very successful in that regard, but we haven't seen it consistently from him. We haven't seen it outside of April of this season. And there, it just seems like there's so much more in there. Like it just seems like there's so much more um, speed. It seems like there's so much better defense, and it's just like we haven't seen it consistently. And he hasn't been the top of the order guy that you could trust up there. And it's a hole. Like I feel good about saying that center field was a hole last year, and yeah, I don't know what that looks like. I think it's just you bank on him. I mean, you have to bank on him. He's getting paid a lot of money, and he's not opting out at this point. After this next year, I think. So, and with Ramos, I mean, it's the defense. I mean, this team, I don't know how good it's going to look as it gets older. Where you have a guy like Adames who, for his credit, played a good shortstop, but we talked about how long he would stay there when he was signed, and um, some of the different older guys on this team and how that would look, but I don't know. Like there's some holes in this lineup where it's like offensively it's going to keep them from being like you're not going to get much offense from catcher. Center field you haven't gotten much offense. Who knows what's going to happen in right field? So second base, it's not as good as Schmidt did. He's not fully established. So there's some holes.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I'm not sure
Bullpen
if we're
too.
yeah. Yeah, so basically the whole team minus
Yeah.
first base, shortstop, and third base they need to
Yeah.
look at.
And it's funny we're saying this and they didn't lose a lot, right? They didn't lose a lot of like Flores, Dom Smith, and Verlander.
Yeah.
They didn't really lose much. So yeah,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see too what kind of decisions they come to with Matos and Luciano.
yeah,
I think
great
those
point.
two guys are both out of options. So, I mean, Luciano is basically the poster child for why I'm always okay trading prospects for studs because, for years they had Luciano and they probably could have gotten some really nice piece by using Luciano as a centerpiece in a deal 3 or 4 years ago, and now they're at risk of letting him walk for free at some point in the next year or so.
Yeah, he's a guy that you can't even be mad if he goes off somewhere else. I just think the Giants completely mishandled his positioning, and I will. He was hurt a lot of the time. He had the back stuff, so maybe it's not all on them, but um, I
Maybe he
think they
can
could.
find it this offseason and he'll be their left fielder of the future.
Hey, and then you could trade Elliott.
What if
Um,
Luciano becomes the first guy to start in left field 2 years in a row since Bonds?
that would be incredible. That would be incredible. Uh, By the way, is that streak gonna end, or who started in left field last year? Was it Ramos? I think it was.
I think it was Ramos. I was actually thinking about that yesterday, and I'm pretty certain it was Ramos. So
Ah,
unless something happens, it sure seems like that would be the first repeat.
yeah. That seems like a likely scenario at this point, but I guess we'll see. Maybe they'll do something funny and like sign Kyle Tucker and say you're gonna play left field for one game.
Right.
Just because we want this to. I mean, we don't have the 30 home run thing anymore to laugh about. So
No. Yeah, so maybe we'll next year will be the year that gets crossed off too.
yeah. By the way, we didn't
Eh,
talk about him,
It
but
was Ramos. Go
but
ahead.
what a year for Willie Adames. Like, and I say that, was he the Adames that we've seen in the past? Maybe not, but he picked it up. Like it did not look pretty in April when fans were saying the DFA him, and he picked it up.
Yeah, the first even like 6 weeks were pretty rough, but he always seemed to kind of stay positive, and he did turn it on. First 30 home run season by a Giant since Bonds. So, that was fun to see. It was kind of a nice bright spot on the last day of the season when they finished 81 and 81. So
Yeah,
maybe next year, maybe this coming season, they just tell him that April 1st is June 1st and go get him.
exactly. Or just play him every day in spring training, like all 9 innings in spring training, and just say,
Yeah, just let him work it out.
yeah. Hey, when opening day, hey, Willie, this is literally May for you, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, bring him on every road trip that the veterans don't want to go on in Arizona.
Yeah,
But
he's on every split squad roster, every
every split
lineup.
squad, exactly. Um, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's a good division. It's a great division. And real quick, because I was going to touch on this and I don't think we put it down. Speaking of that division, the Rockies hired Paul DePotesta as their president of baseball operations. And the first thing I thought of Tyler was this guy was cutting edge 20 years ago. It's the most Rocky move I could think of.
Yeah, and wasn't he working for the Cleveland Browns?
He was working with the Cleveland Browns, and from what I read, he played a big role in the Deshaun Watson stuff and bringing him to Cleveland after the big scandal, and that was just a PR nightmare. Um, and there's a deal in that Deshaun Watson trade where it's like when they signed him, when they ended up signing him, it was we're not going to pay you as much on year one because we're expecting a suspension. Um, After Deshaun Watson was involved in some of
Some
the
things, some extracurricular activities.
yes, in the massage parlor. But yeah, Paul DePotesta, aka Peter Brand, because Paul did not want his name and likeness in the movie Moneyball. But if you read the book, he's very heavily in there. And I believe he was actually not a favor of like Billy Bean giving access to Michael Lewis, the writer. I have to go back and look at that. But bottom line is the question I have is like when you're 10 years removed, how much baseball have you kept up with? It's a lot different. We have the StatCast stats now, stuff that teams rely on. And my other question is just why? You know,
Yeah.
like, uh, and you're not even just going to some organization, you're going to an organization that literally nobody's won with. So,
I mean, that's probably why he went to why the Rockies. I'm assuming the Rockies were probably the only MLB team talking to him. And
probably,
the Rockies are just like, whatever, let's do this. And instead of like signing players, let's just get this guy on board.
yeah. And
Yeah, I
there's
mean,
talk about,
who knows what the Rockies are doing at basically any given time.
yeah, their ownership group is rough. The Monfort family and they just hire internally and it's like a nepotism family. So there's like two Monford sons that are gonna eventually run the team, and they're all as bad as their dad. But um, yeah, we'll see. I just a quick nugget. I had to throw it in there. Cutting edge 20 years ago. Paul DePotesta, who's back in baseball, leading a bit. If he does win with that team, I'll give him credit. But I mean, how? How would you like? He must have
I
really
mean, when we
impressed.
say if he wins, what does that look like? Are we for the Rockies? Are we saying like if he gets them back to like 500, or you talking about like if he like somehow turns them into a playoff team?
I'm talking about a playoff team. I mean, there's the makings, and Alex Pavlovich said this on Giants Talk. They have some of the ingredients already. They have a good stadium. They have a great fan base that still shows up. Um, it seems like you could, get them to a point where there was once a point where the Rockies played really well at home. And if you could get them to be that again, and you have the best home field advantage in baseball, and you're able to do that, who knows? But I still think it's way far down the road. We're not even close to that. So good
Yeah,
luck, Paul D. Potesta, and we'll be rooting for you.
absolutely. Yeah, and then you mentioned how he signed Watson with some after some controversy. Maybe they're looking to pick up some relievers from the Guardians shortly after their controversy that some illegal betting activity, Steven, just the way you like it.
Yeah, we could touch briefly on this just because there's stuff that's going to be trickling out for a while, but um, Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz, they've been indicted by the federal government, who federal government's been on a roll with this betting stuff, trying to shut down different things happening. Um, and basically, they were paid money by gambling people, I guess, to throw pitches that were balls to kind of I don't know if you could describe this better than I can, but to intentionally throw balls because there's these things called prop bets where if you have however many pitches during an inning, if the first pitch is a ball, you could bet on that. Anything under the sun you could bet on. And teams are just now finding out that this is a bad thing. So,
Yeah, I mean, you can literally bet on anything under the sun now. And like you said, even like what will the second pitch of the third at bat in the top of the fourth be or something,
yeah.
you know?
What
And
color is
so
the Gatorade that we're going to pour on Tylor Hall after the game?
exactly. And so yeah, it kind of opens Pandora's box into how this can go wrong. And the Guardians, some of the Guardians pitchers are showing just that right now. And I think I was talking, Steve and I were talking a little bit before we started recording. I saw a replay of a pitch where Ortiz threw a ball that Anthony Volpe swung at that was not a strike.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a strike because he swung at it, and Ortiz audibly yelled out the F word because I'm assuming he wanted that pitch to be a ball for some reason. So yeah, I mean, they got to figure out some way to keep this out of the clubhouses, and I don't know how you do it. Just you can't control what people bet on, and I mean, you're seeing it in kind of the NBA right now too. They're having their own gambling saga
Yeah.
over there with Chauncey Billups and some other guys. So yeah, it'll be kind of interesting to see how this plays out and the ramifications of any changes they might try to implement moving
Yep.
forward.
Consequences of your own actions. That's what I tell all the leagues that cozied up with um these sports gambling entities and
I mean,
yeah,
they're sponsoring almost every broadcast now. They're sponsors behind, behind the on the backdrop, on the backstop. I think there's arenas named after, some of these gambling sites. So yeah, they are fully, in bed with these companies. So
yeah, they're so far down the rabbit hole that I don't see any figuring it out
yeah.
at all. So we'll keep updated on that story. There's probably a lot more that's going to come out. I want to say both of those guys are in custody, or I did see that Ortiz was.
Last I
Uh,
saw Ortiz was, but Class A wasn't in the United States. So we'll kind of see what his deal is.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. And then final thing here before we get up to everybody's favorite segment, three up, three down. Uh, there are some award races in Major League Baseball. Um, some of them have a clear winner. Some of them don't. I guess we could quickly go through one of them and predict real quick. Um, First of all, I mean the one that we have written down here, we could get the biggest one out real quick. The American League MVP.
I think this is the one that might be most up for debate, Stephen, and I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Me personally, as a former catcher, I think it should go to Raleigh. I mean, it's remarkable what he did this year as a full-time catcher, as a switch hitter. how do you want to cut how impressive his season was?
Yeah, I mean, he should get it, I think, too. I think the argument is there to say that Judge was the better player with how valuable he was offensively. But I don't understand how you could not give it to Cal Raleigh. Just, the Mariners with what they did this season. You mentioned all the things about the switch hitting power numbers as a catcher. I mean, all of it was just unprecedented success from him. I would give it to him too. I mean, if I had a vote in this, I would 100% give it to him as well.
Yeah, and he's not just hitting bombs. He steals some bases. He plays a really strong catcher. I think it was during the Blue Jays series they had put up something about like when his last passed ball was, and I was like, oh, we'll get a Cal Raleigh pass ball later, and we did. But it was the first time in like a year. I think it was his first one all season. It's just crazy what he did. Obviously, it's not like Aaron Judge is some guy off the scrap heap either, but just for everything that he did for that team, for that city. I mean, Seattle was lit up again this year. And I think he would be my vote for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the National League side, I'm trying to pull up the finalists here. Um,
I'm assuming, I mean, we can look at the finalists, but it's Otani, right?
yeah, it's got to be Otani.
Otani, Schwarber, Soto. I mean, Schwarber had a great season. I think he hit what 56, 54. But I think as long as Otani's healthy and playing full seasons, it's basically his award to lose for the near future.
Absolutely. With the pitching side of it too, that is a big guide into him winning this. Um, And then we could go quickly through the Cy Young Award winners in the National League. I think it's probably going to be Paul Skeens. For our Giants people out there, Logan Webb, a notable omission from the finalist list after leading the National League in innings and strikeouts.
Yeah, I mean, I think Skeens, no matter who's the finalist with him, Skeens wins this probably in a landslide. But it was pretty surprising to me that Webb wasn't even in the top three, considering, I know it's just based off this year, but he's led baseball in innings pitched 3 years in a row now. Right? And
Yep.
first time, I think he might have been the only guy. Was he the only guy over 200 this year?
Yes, he got over by like one start, literally
Yeah.
207, I think.
Yeah, most strikeouts. So yeah, it was surprising to see him omitted. But yeah, it wouldn't have changed my vote even if he was in that three. It's hard to not give it to Paul Skeens, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's just so dominant. And then in the American League, it seems like there's a slam dunk winner with Tarek Skubal. Um, in the AL, he led all the American League in strikeout rate, earned run average. This is going to be two straight for him, so he's pulling off the Lincecum. Garrett Crochet and Hunter Brown of the Astros also on that finalist list. So, I mean, nobody's better than him, I don't think.
No, and it's interesting to see because there's been some chatter about like, do they trade him this offseason? And it's like, how do you do that? I don't
Yeah.
know why they would. Kind of similar with Skeens, there's been a little bit of, do they trade him and load up? But I don't see how you would trade either of those two guys. So yeah, I mean, Scooble back to back,
Yeah.
the Timmy special.
We'll be talking about that again for sure. And then the rookie of the year in the National League, we have Drake Baldwin from the Braves, the catcher Caleb Durbin, third baseman for the Brewers, and Cade Horton, the starting pitcher for the Cubs. Uh, I mean, this one's tough. I feel like Horton's probably going to be the one that gets it. He had a 1.03 ERA in his last 61 and a third innings. So literally one of the best pitchers in the game down the stretch. Um, and then Baldwin was with the Braves all season, kind of the offensive cornerstone of a team that kind of underachieved a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah, it would be interesting maybe if the Braves were a little better. Does that help Baldwin's case? Because I mean, out of sight of him, they didn't really play that well. And so yeah, I think it probably goes to Horton. I personally might vote for Baldwin myself, but I think it probably goes to Horton. Maybe Baldwin sneaks in there.
absolutely. And then in the American League, I think there's a clear winner in this one. The year that Nick Kurtz had was just so amazing. He is he's such a good hitter, and I think he's going to walk away with this award. Um, he's a guy that's going to be. I hope the A's change the way they've been doing business for years and keep this guy, keep Jacob Wilson, who's also a finalist. But I mean, he was so amazing. Um, and 35 homers, one of the better hitters in baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the best first basemen in the league, played a pretty solid, first base all season for the Athletics. It still throws me off seeing the finalists, and it's like Boston Red Sox, Athletics, Athletics.
Yeah.
Um, cool for whoever does still follow the A's to kind of see that they have two Rookie of the Year candidates. It shows that there's some promise in the future as well. But yeah, I think, Kurtz might get every first place vote in this one.
Yeah, for sure. And then quickly, the manager of the year finalists: Terry Francona with the Reds, Pat Murphy with the Brewers, Rob Thompson with the Phillies. Again, no postseason is accounted for in this, but probably Pat Murphy, I would say.
Yeah, I feel like every year we've done this, we're like kind of like manager of the year is always kind of tough to judge, especially preseason. But even now, it's kind of like, yeah, probably Murphy. I mean, Francona, would this be his third manager of the year
Something like
if
that.
he won? He did get the Reds to the playoffs in the first time in over a decade, which is impressive. But I mean, the Brewers had the one seed in the Central for a division that I don't know if they were probably favored to win. Probably a lot of people had the Cubs preseason, so
Yeah.
probably going probably going to Pat.
And then in the American League, John Schneider with the Blue Jays, the American League champion Blue Jays. Stephen Vogt with the Guardians. And then that last one there was Dan Wilson with the Mariners. I know people are going to think Schneider because of the World Series stuff, but I think I would have to go Vogt. That was kind of a team that snuck into October. They had a late season charge. Um, I think it's got to be Stephen Vogt. But Dan
Yeah,
Wilson is a good case too, I think.
yeah, I think Wilson has a pretty strong case too about, getting a team into a postseason that hasn't been there very often. So this might be probably the closest, because like you mentioned before, postseason's not a part of this. So this might be out of these four awards, this might be the closest, results. I mean, I could see either any three of them win, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%.
But I'll throw it on Wilson. We all kind of said, we kind of threw one out there for each one. I'll go with Wilson. Why not?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Um, all right, let's move into three up, three down, everybody's favorite segment. Um, let's start with the downs. Tyler, since we don't even remember the last time we did this, we looked at the doc and found out that I think I was the last one that had downs.
You were the last one, so I'm picking up the torch here. Three up, three down. We start with downs because we don't like to finish on a down note here, so we'll end with the positives. But three up, three down. I was hoping you'd pull that out again. Thanks, dude.
Whoa.
That's what she said. Anyway, first down, the Edmonton Oilers for a baseball podcast that might seem a little weird, but I'll explain. During Game 7 of the World Series, they played Game 7 in the arena on the Jumbotron with audio while the Oilers, and I don't recall who they were playing, but while the game was actively happening. Connor McDavid, who's one of the best hockey players in the world, is on the Oilers. After the game, he had some words to say. Said it was really distracting. He found himself watching the ball game more than the ice when he was on the bench. And he totally got it that obviously people around here are excited for the Jays, but playing it live with audio while we're playing an NHL game probably wasn't the best choice, Steven.
No, that must be an insane experience for anybody that's at the game. Like
Yeah,
there's a game going on and then it turns into a watch party of a different game and a different sport. Um,
in a different province.
yeah, I'd be pissed off too if I'm a player on one of those teams. So I could see how that is
Yeah.
a down.
So yeah, you're down, Edmonton Oilers. Uh, Second down, I'm gonna go with Patrick Bailey getting snubbed on the Platinum Glove. There's all sorts of different metrics and whatnot, but I think he had the highest defensive runs saved this year by like 10. I think he was at like 31, and the next closest player of any position was like in the low 20s. And Fernando Tatis Jr. gets your NL Platinum gloves, Steven.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we still undervalue catchers. But this was just such a wide margin that there's no way Bailey didn't win it. I mean, it feels crazy that that's the case. I know Padres fans are making a big deal out of it on social media, but Tatis not taking anything away. He's made the transition and made it very spectacularly. He's been amazing in right field defensively. But it just seemed like Bailey was far and away the best defender in baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. And to everyone worried that how the robot strike zone would impact Bailey, I don't think it will that much until they go to robots calling every pitch. They're still going to have to call a challenge, and not every pitch that Patrick Bailey frames is a ball that he gets a strike on. So I
Yep.
think they're going to challenge something. They'll probably get some right against Bailey, but they'll get one or two, however many they decide to give a team. They're going to burn a challenge, get it wrong, and he's going to keep framing and helping his pitchers out.
Yeah.
Um, Last down is for anybody comparing Yoshinobu Yamamoto's postseason to Madison Bumgarner's in 2014, Stephen. Obviously, an amazing postseason, has a piece in history in its own right. Bumgarner, I think, threw, was it 15 more innings?
Hmm.
Had a lower ERA, had a .25 ERA in the World Series. I think that was his career ERA in the World Series, but I think he gave up one run in his three outings in the World Series that year. Um, Teams thought they were done seeing him, and then were taken aback when he would come and pitch again. So I'm throwing it down on that one, Steven. No one touches Mad Bum.
Yeah, no, I agree. And what Yamamoto did is was insane. I mean, just, the amount of times he was going to pitch, he was warming up for game three.
Yeah.
If it had gone, a 19th inning, I think that's where they were, right? He would have gone
Yeah.
in. And he was warming up, he volunteered, and then he ended up pitching game six. And then I think that the thing that makes it closer than I thought to me would be the 1 day's rest thing, just because he threw 96 pitches. Now, granted, the thing that would retract me from what I just said is that in game six, he threw 6 innings. So it's almost like, would you take 6 innings and 96 pitches and then 1 day rest, 3 innings in relief? Or would you take Bumgarner's complete game shutout in game five and then 2 days rest and then the 5 innings in relief? I would take the 5 innings of relief. I agree with you on the body of work of Bumgarner. It seemed like so much more spectacular. Um, and that's an all timer. Yamamoto's, I think, is simply just amazing, but amazing in my mind because of the short rest. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think his shutout in the World Series was the first one in how long? Was it the first since Bumgarner? I
It
know it'd
might,
been a
I don't
long
know.
time.
That's a good
And
question. I'd have to look into it.
so obviously, two amazing postseasons. Bumgarner's just as a whole to me was stronger. So down on anybody. You can win the World Series, but you're not taking the best postseason hit in history from Madison Bumgarner.
No, for sure. And all right. So for ups, and they're all kind of manager related in a way, um, or ties to manager related. We'll start with the one that Yamamoto's manager in the postseason. I have Dave Roberts as being an up, and let me tell you why. It seemed like whenever the Dodgers would get to the postseason under Dave Roberts, it seemed like he was always the weak link when they would get to the postseason. He would, maybe not press the right buttons. This postseason, I didn't really see anything he did wrong. And I give him credit. And again, you could characterize the Dodgers being great because of the players on the field, and that's ultimately what they are at the end of the day. But after this World Series, it got me thinking, and maybe he already was, but Dave Roberts is a Hall of Famer. And I don't think there's any debating it right now. I think it's set in stone. He's going to get inducted into Cooperstown. He has the resume now. And not only does he have the resume because of his players, I think there's a good argument to be made that he impressed me enough this postseason to prove to me that he's not a liability for the Dodgers. And maybe the Dodgers needed maybe somebody could have hopped in there and been a more noticeable liability, and maybe he was a liability, and I'm just underestimating how much of a and the talent covered it up. I don't know, but he's a Hall of Famer, and I give him big props this postseason.
I mean, yeah, I think any manager who wins 3 rings pretty much gets their ticket stamped at some point. So I don't think that's a, crazy, feeling that he's going to be in
Yeah,
Cooperstown eventually. I will say, compared to other years, it did seem like he kind of had a better grasp of what was going on and what buttons to push. Like we talked about, Page's coming in for Edmund in the middle of an inning in game 7, knowing in some of those long extra inning games, okay, how long should I leave this guy in? He didn't leave any guy in too long to where it bit him in the ass, so he was able to get what he needed to out of. I think his bullpen management in that series was huge. And obviously, the depth of the team definitely helps. It does help when you're penciling in, Otani, Betts, Freeman, Smith, every night,
yeah,
but you can't fault him for that, and so, like I said, I think this was definitely his strongest postseason as a manager for sure.
yeah. And I almost said that they didn't notice him, but I don't think that would have been giving him, or I didn't notice him, but I don't think that would have been giving him the credit he deserves. Just didn't notice the mistakes, I guess. We'll
Yeah.
say that. All right. From one manager to another, Bruce Bochy is joining the San Francisco Giants organization as a special assistant. He's back in the organization. This is a move that Dusty Baker did after he retired the first time, or he didn't retire the first time, but after he was out of the game for a few seasons, and then after he retired officially. Um, and Tony Vitello will now have two former managers plus Ron Wotus. That could be a
Does Felipe
sounding board.
Alou still is Felipe Alou still a special assistant as well?
I am not too sure. From what I heard, he spends a lot of his time in the Dominican Republic. I don't think he gets around to doing any special assistant work anymore. Um, but hell, I'm sure even he would make himself available for Tony Vitello. But it just seems right. I mean, he's back. It's kind of like Belichick reuniting with Brady, if that were to ever happen, but um, in kind of a different way. And who knows what position he'll have? He'll probably do some community stuff, visit the minor league system. Um, but really cool to see Boch back.
Yeah, I mean, it's always where he's belonged since he, even when he went back to Texas, I think everyone kind of felt that eventually he would come back. Felt that way even more once Buster was the guy in charge, and him and Buster had such a strong working relationship for when he was, Buster's boss, basically. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I know he went and he met Tony Vitello for lunch in Tennessee at some point before he officially came back on board, and he seemed to have pretty good feelings about it as well. And so he came back home to the Bay.
Yep. Welcome back, Boch. And then from one former Giants manager to another, give some props here to Gabe Kapler, former Giants manager, for getting promoted by the Miami Marlins from assistant general manager to general manager. So he is going to now again in a day and an era where president of baseball ops is the main guy. Who knows how much of an upgrade this is, but he is a general manager nonetheless. He'll be answering calls a lot more than he probably did as assistant general manager. And maybe there's a scenario where he'll be negotiating with Buster Posey on something. So there's a lot of weird things happening. And, I'm not shocked. I think he's smart enough to eventually run a baseball ops group, but really cool to see.
Yeah, I saw that. I wasn't too surprised. I know he was the assistant GM, and I feel like for some reason, like he hits me as like a Miami guy. Like I could
Yeah.
see him on South Beach doing his thing, and he also did kind of strike me as more of a front office guy than an on the field manager in his time here, just with how he kind of handled the media, how he was so analytical and how he looked at things. So, I think those kind of things when you lean into those are probably better for constructing a roster and not necessarily how to run it on a day to day. So, he could maybe work some magic down there for the Marlins.
Yeah, and I probably closes the door on managing again for him because I don't think we've ever seen a GM be a manager. I think the
Yeah.
Marlins did it one year with one of their executives like becoming the manager for the rest of the year, but
Hmm.
yeah, I'm not too sure. But yeah, shout out to Gabe Kapler, Bruce Bochy, Dave Roberts, um, and shout down, not out, but down. I don't know if that's right to the Edmonton Oilers, the people running the Platinum Glove, and the people advocating for Yamamoto over Bumgarner. So
Yeah,
fun times, Tyler. I think we shut it down again.
we we
We
did.
had
This was
gone.
we were in long relief this time.
We were in long relief. We caught up. We're back. We'll do some free agency stuff probably next episode. Give kind of a wider thoughts on what's going on with the
Yeah,
market.
next episode we'll tell everybody where everybody signed and who made the All-Star team in 2026.
Yeah, we'll be talking about like the who we think's gonna make the All-Star team,
But
and then
no,
I'll
go
do
ahead.
that thing again where I'll go, "Oh, we're back. We're ready to go. We are not dead." Oh God.
But yeah, probably do some free agency talk. I know you and I both love have a well, I guess I have a love hate, but the Hall of Fame discussions. We've got some interesting ballot discussions there, and
Yeah, I'm gonna
yeah,
rip on some people for that because we have a new rule change in the Hall of Fame that we'll get into. That's pretty
yeah,
shady and sneaky. So stay
yeah,
tuned for that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So we did it, man. We'll
we
do
did it.
episode 58 soon. Over under, Steven. End of this month for episode 58.
Under.
Under. All
Under.
right.
Yeah, we're going under. We'll schedule
Two
tomorrow.
podcasts in November.
Yeah, two podcasts in November. That sounds like the name of a movie. The name of your next book.
Two podcasts in
Two
November.
podcasts in November. All righty. Everybody could go ahead and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, Shutdown Inning. We're on Twitter at shutdown_inning. And go check us out there. And we will see you next time.
That's what's up.
Bye bye.